Before we get into this video, what if I told you some major rap stars built their careers on crimes they never actually committed? Stories that are amplified or fabricated to enhance their street credibility and sell records. Today, we're breaking down multiple high-profile cases where rappers either exaggerated falsely claimed or reinforced a criminal image that didn't completely match their real life, and we'll stick to the confirmed facts only. Algernon Lanier Washington, known professionally as Plies, was born on May 22, 1976, and grew up in Florida with a background that didn't include the deep criminal resume he often referenced in his music. Early in his life before fame, Plies reportedly attended college. Some reports mention Miami, University of South Florida, and he even played football at the college level. When Plies emerged on the rap scene in the mid-2000s with hits like Shawty and Hypnotized, his persona was that of a hardened street figure, a real thug with extensive involvement in drugs and violence, a theme he leaned into heavily in interviews and lyrics. However, investigative reporting by Hip Hop DX uncovered that prior to 2006, Plies had no recorded jail time that matched that criminal life he portrayed. His first known adult arrest in Florida was in April 2006 for a misdemeanor charge of resisting an officer without violence. And his second recorded incident was related to a shooting at a nightclub after a performance later that year, neither of which reports the extensive felonious past he implied in music. Songs like Running My Mama Crazy included lines about sitting in a cold cell, but public records show he had not spent significant time in prison before his music career took off, making his tough image a creative persona rather than documented lived experience. Akon was born on April 16, 1973 in St. Louis, Missouri, but spent significant time in both New Jersey and Senegal during his childhood. When he rose to fame in the early 2000s with chart-topping singles like Locked Up and Smack That, Akon's music and public narrative leaned heavily on the backstory of criminality and lengthy prison stints. His second album, Convicted, was even framed around the idea of conviction and imprisonment. In interviews, Akon repeatedly claimed he had spent years in prison as a leader of a nationwide car theft ring, invoking imagery of serving a multi-year sentence and running chop shops. However, public records and investigations, including reports from the Smoking Gun and other outlets, show that Akon's real criminal history was far less dramatic. His known legal trouble included a 1998 gun possession conviction that resulted in probation and an arrest for possession of a stolen vehicle, where charges were dropped after months in custody, but no long prison sentence or evidence of leading a criminal empire. Despite this, Akon's image as a hardened criminal became central to his brand and the thematic content of albums like Trouble and Convicted, fueling fan perception even though the detailed claims did not align with public legal records. Tiger was born on November 19, 1989 in Compton, California, and later moved with his family to the more affluent San Fernando Valley, a detail that became a point of controversy in his early career. While emerging as a commercial artist with hits like Rack City, Tiger referenced the West Coast street life and gang culture in his music, being a part of his image around growing up connected to the gritty environment of Compton. However, older footage from a 2013 appearance on MTV's Busters showed him talking about life in the valley and a relatively comfortable upbringing that didn't match the rough persona some listeners believed based on his lyrics. He later clarified that parts of that interview were scripted and reaffirmed his connection to Compton and Gardena, but the storyline underscores how rap narratives about coming up real tough often blend or exaggerate the truth for artistic effect rather than strictly reflecting lived experiences. While not entirely fabricated, Rick Ross's persona also reflects a broader example of image crafting in hip-hop. Born January 28, 1976 in Mississippi and raised in Florida, Ross became widely known for his portrayal of a ruthless drug kingpin in lyrics and interviews. However, it emerged that before music, he worked as a correctional officer, a job that sharply contrasted with the hardened trafficker image he projected, and that later was the subject of legal attention and industry discussion, including lawsuits from the real drug dealer who Ross took his stage name from. His case illustrates how rap personas often interrogate character elements that differ from an artist's true past. Ross's music references grand street narratives but public biographical facts that show his early adult life included a legitimate law enforcement position rather than the deep narcotics empire his lyrics suggested. Across these artists, a pattern emerges where creative narrative and crafted persona can diverge significantly from actual personal histories. Plies adopted a goon and street legend persona that lacked documented criminal foundation. Akon built a thematic identity around lengthy imprisonment that record evidence did not support. Tyga's early identity narratives about his upbringing sparked debate when contrasted with archived footage, and Rick Ross's iconic drug lord image contrasted with his real early employment. These cases highlight how hip-hop often blends autobiography with artistic fiction, where criminal imagery and gritty storytelling became part of brand building and cultural expression. Even when the literal events described didn't occur as presented, while some exaggeration is part of artistic license across music genres, awareness of distinction between narrative persona and documentary reality helps listeners contextualize these powerful art forms without assuming all lyrical details are factual.